Hey everybody, how you doing? Thad Brown from the sports office here. It is late June. There is exactly 1 month till the Bills report to training camp in Orchard Park, and then another month and a half after that until the season starts. So we are truly in the dog days of NFL nothingness, when it comes to topics. But doesn't mean there can't be something that takes over the internet, Twitter, social media, whatever. And we have one here with Bills Mafia, Country Nation, whatever you want to call it, in terms of the virtual version. Who was more responsible for the big seasons that both players had last year? In other words, did Stefon Diggs make Josh Allen, or did Josh Allen make Stefon Diggs? And look, there really is only one right answer to this. There's only one thing, if you look at the evidence of both players' careers, what they did last year, what they've done before, there's only one way to look at how you answer this. And that's very simple. Stefon Diggs made Josh Allen more than Josh Allen made Stefon Diggs. Because Josh Allen didn't do anything other than be an average, inconsistent, high and low quarterback, roller coaster quarterback at best, before Stefon Diggs came to Buffalo. Whereas Stefon Diggs has 100-catch seasons, has 1,000-yard seasons. So Diggs has the evidence behind him that says that he has been able to, be a exceptional football player before he came to Buffalo. Before last season, Diggs had 100-yard season, 2,000-yard seasons. He's caught 8, 9, and 6 touchdowns, and he's done that with a variety of quarterbacks. You've got Kirk Cousins. You have, who else? One more Minnesota quarterback I want to hit here. That's right, Case Keenum. I knew there was another guy. So Stefon Diggs has had high levels of success with a variety of quarterbacks in a variety of offenses, granted with one team, before joining up with Josh Allen. Whereas Josh Allen, before Stefon Diggs, was only a either below average or average quarterback. Now, for Josh Allen, that's an exceptionally small sample size, 2 seasons. Is that a fair way to assess him? Of course it's not. It's definitely not a fair way to look at Josh Allen's career. But it is all the evidence we have when it comes to trying to dissect this debate. Josh Allen wasn't very good before Stefon Diggs arrived, whereas Diggs was. And even with Diggs, now his production with Josh Allen was certainly much better than it ever was in any year in Minnesota. So to say that Josh Allen had nothing to do with Diggs' ascension, Diggs' season, is wrong. But there is even a reason you can look at for why Diggs got better beyond just joining Josh Allen and the Bills. When he was in Minnesota, he had a near number one level wide receiver on the other side, Adam Thielen. Now, as good as Cole Beasley is, and he's a very good receiver, he's not Adam Thielen. So Diggs, for the first time in his career, is in a situation where he's the number one without a debate. He's going to get number one level targets, number one level respect from the offense. There's an interest by everyone to, use the number one weapon on the team. So when Diggs came to Buffalo and improved, the big reason, or the reasons you want to point to why that happened, there is a very large one other than Josh Allen was there, in that Diggs became a clear-cut number one receiver. So when you look at the two guys, simply based on what the two have done before they came together, it is hard to sit here and say that Josh Allen made Stefon Diggs, or that Josh Allen was more responsible for what happened last season than Stefon Diggs is. Now, does that mean Josh Allen was not responsible at all? No. That's as foolish as trying to argue that Allen was more responsible. Here's the way I look at this. Josh Allen went from, like I said, an average kind of roller coaster quarterback in 2020, where, yeah, you had some high highs, but you had some low lows, and just the consistent play wasn't there. Pretty appropriate for a guy in his second year as a starter. To go from that to a near MVP, it's not going to be just one thing. It's not going to be just Stefon Diggs was traded to Buffalo. It's not going to be just Josh Allen took a large leap. I would say those two things are probably 1 and 2 in that order. But it's also the offensive line was an above average unit. Cole Beasley, was a pretty good, at worst, second receiver. Brian Dable is a very good offensive coordinator. Sean McDermott is a very good head coach. All these factors come together. Whenever anything big happens in the NFL, whenever there's a blowout, whenever there's a surprise, the Tampa Bay, Kansas City Super Bowl. Why did that happen? It wasn't just one reason. Yeah, the pass rush and the ability of Tampa Bay to get to the quarterback was probably the biggest, but there were 4 or 5 or 6 factors. The Chiefs had injuries. Tom Brady played great. The Bucs receivers were very good. Kansas City had a few drops. There's multiple reasons that goes into that big surprise end result in the NFL. And in the same way, Josh Allen having a near MVP season isn't just about Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs. It's about those two guys and all the pieces around them. But if you want me to sit here and stack what's the most important, I don't see any way how you can sit there and say that Josh Allen of the two guys is more responsible for improving Stephon Diggs than the other way around. Now, does that mean it's going to be like that forever? No. If Josh Allen stacks, 4 or 5 more good seasons after this, and it doesn't have to be that many, the point is that even if, let's say, Allen and Diggs play together forever for, a Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison-like career, at some point down the road, to take a big number that is an obvious one, 7 years down the road, no one's going to debate whether it's Josh Allen or Stephon Diggs. We're going to know they're both really, really good. So some point between now and 7 years from now, if Josh Allen continues to play at the level he's playing at, there won't be a debate anymore. It'll just be Josh Allen's great and Stephon Diggs is great, and that's it. But for now, Josh Allen only has one good season. And based on that evidence, it's hard to sit here and say that he is more responsible for what happened last year than Stephon Diggs. So why is this a thing now? Well, number one, like I said, it is late June. There is literally nothing better to talk about. And this is what happens in the NFL. And part of it is, too, it's on the media because there are a lot of people out there who cover the NFL 12 months out of the year. You think about that. You got to, your 365-day-a-year job, or if you break it down to work days, your, 240-day-a-year job or 200-day-a-year job is to cover the NFL. And of those 200 days, there are 17 games. That's a lot of other days to fill with things that really don't have anything to do with anything because there's no game going on. This is probably the worst part of that season. So that's a thing. The other thing, too, is, and you Bills fans got to admit this, you're still a little trigger shy or trigger happy when it comes to firing back at any Josh Allen criticism. And I understand why, because there's been a lot of criticism thrown his way fairly and unfairly since the moment he was drafted. But at some point, as the Bills fans who have trouble dealing with any criticism of Josh Allen, and you all know who you are, you're going to have to admit that in this particular case and in some other cases, Josh Allen is not the best there ever was. And, in this spot, because Stephon Diggs has the body of work before this year, when it comes to comparing A and B, Stephon Diggs is going to get the lion's share of the credit. Again, doesn't mean it's going to be forever, and doesn't mean Josh Allen deserves zero credit, and it also doesn't mean that you guys are totally wrong when it comes to being overly protective of Josh Allen, because there's certainly people out there that still, A, want to press your buttons, but B, also are just clinging to the notion that Josh Allen can never be good and continue to push it out there. There's not very many of them anymore, but I'm sure there are a few. Look, Josh Allen is an excellent quarterback. He still needs to prove he can do it consistently. He's got one good year. That's it. But from what Josh Allen did last year, anybody who watched him will tell you this, including me, much of what happened last season was because of Josh Allen improving and playing better on his own, regardless of who was around him. And as long as he continues to do that, and there's very little that you watched from last year that you think, well, that's not repeatable. There might be some regression in some spots, but for the most part, the things Josh Allen did last year, there's no reason not to think he's going to do them again next year and the year after and the year after that. And in fact, something I've been saying on here many times, the way Josh Allen improved from year 1 to year 2, and then last year from year 2 to year 3, you would be foolish not to expect another improvement this year. Will it be as big an improvement? Probably not, because there's really just not that much more room to go to. I mean, he's almost near the ceiling at this point. I don't know how much, if he takes a bigger jump, if there's even room for a big jump left. But right now, right this second, based on the evidence, there's really only one answer to the question about did Diggs make Allen or did Allen make Diggs? The only thing you can say is Diggs probably made Allen more than Allen made Diggs. Could it be 50-50? Sure. You want to argue that? I'll listen to that. But even that, feels like to a degree of a reach. What do you guys got for me? Gilbert, Van Norman, mutual contribution from both. They click. Hey, there's no doubt that both guys contribute. You cannot, and like I said, you look at all the factors that went into last season, and there's probably a lot of them. Diggs 1, Allen 2, in some order. You want to? I'm going to tell you, Allen 1, Diggs 2 is wrong. But there's no way either one of those two things are 3, in my opinion. Diggs is the chef and Allen is the oven. Corey, you know what? I hear you on that one, and I like the analogy. I don't think you're giving Allen enough credit there. As much as I'll tell you that I think Diggs is more responsible, I think saying Diggs is the chef is giving him, credit for all of the original thought, for lack of a better term. But I think you're in the ballpark with that. And another thing to keep in mind with this, It's not just the on the field stuff. When Diggs came in and the way he comported himself off the field, the way he acted like a leader, conducted himself seemingly in the locker room. The Bills talked about how important that was and how much, Josh Allen, among others, learned from it. So it's not just, whether the receiver made the quarterback. It's also about whether the more experienced veteran helped to lead the younger, leader the younger veteran too. And that's a big part of this as well. It'd be different if you had a quarterback like Josh Allen, if he had maybe been in the league 8 years and had, leadership experience and had been, proven over a long period of time to be good at that. And you got Diggs, who's coming in as a third, fourth year player, who's new at being a leader. That would be different. This worked out the other way. Josh Allen, although as the quarterback has been a leader most of his career, he's still relatively new at doing that job in the NFL. Whereas Diggs, who, like I said, had not been a clear-cut number one in Minnesota, certainly seemed to take to the job much quicker and really kind of be the alpha dog, if you got to pick one of the two, when it comes to being a leader in the locker room. Allen's got plenty of alpha in him, don't get me wrong. But Diggs, I think, took the lead in that spot as well. Dan Walker Beasley's going to play this year. I know he's been upset about the vaccine stuff, but it really doesn't do him any good to sit out from the things that he said so far. Corey Diggs was just happy to get out of Minnesota, had to show Minnesota how good he really is. That's definitely a part of it, Corey. I know, especially when Diggs left Minnesota as a guy who was thought of to be a personality problem or a malcontent. And I think more, Corey, what I will agree with you there is the off the field stuff than the on the field. I think Diggs, and he talked about this, he was motivated to be a better guy in Buffalo than he was in Minnesota. I think that helped translate to the on the field, but I think off the field, you're dead on there. Terry Thompson, a bit like Jordan Pippen. I don't know about that in terms of the NFL relationship's a little different. In the NFL, the quarterback almost has to be Jordan because of the way the relationship works in the offense. But again, it's hard to sit here and say that Allen made Diggs when Diggs has this would be like, if Pippen came from another team after he had been in the NFL for, I can't even come up with a good analogy for that. I'm going to leave that one alone. Corey Tessier, an elite running back, will make them even better. Maybe. The concern I have with an elite running back is the desire to give that guy carries when you really don't want to do anything but throw the ball. Certainly a running back can help. I don't know if it will help, but it certainly can help. Corey, I'm going to hit that question right now. Giannis and the Bucks have it in them to take it all. I don't know. Game one really got me questioning Milwaukee, and I mean they've been in this spot before. We're the favorite team. I mean, I thought they'd wipe the floor with Toronto a couple years ago and didn't even really come close. So the only thing Milwaukee to me is really missing, maybe an extra shooter, but is that ability to finish in a clutch spot. And they've had the pressure on them for, the last 2-3 years. And I was very impressed with the Brooklyn series. I thought Brooklyn was turning a corner, winning that series, even as banged up as the Nets were. But the way game one went down, where you got Pat Connaughton throwing up air balls in clutch spots and guys just not hitting shots, I still wonder with Milwaukee. They're playing a close game right now. Check the score, actually, since you bring it up. The question was, do they have it in them? I mean, I think they do. I know they have it in them. But do they execute? I don't know. Melanie Wheeler, they get along fine. The Bills get along fine. I think the only thing that doesn't get along is, sometimes the debate among fans and stuff. The Bills going to be Super Bowl ready. I'm not sure about that, Melanie. I had this discussion with a guy. I was out playing golf. Someone asked me about this. The thing with the Bills in terms of getting to the Super Bowl, it feels like the Bills kind of stood pat. They're the same team that they were at the end of last year. Now, they could add a couple things between now and the start of the season. Who knows? But for right now, they're the same team. On paper, I think the Chiefs got better, added to their offensive line. On paper, I think the Browns got better. The Colts, if Carson Wentz is any good, got better. I think the Chargers got a lot better. So while the Bills kind of stayed here, the Chiefs kind of moved up a little bit, and these teams, the Colts and the Browns, are closing this way. So it's hard for me to sit here and pick the Bills to get to the Super Bowl, but I think the Bills are banking on is the young guys they already have improving, especially your pass rushers. A.J. Epinesa, Rousseau, Basham. You get a couple of those guys to hit, all of a sudden your pass rush is really good. And like I said, Josh Allen could take care of this himself by having another large lead this season. Not out of the realm. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you later.